damages totaling millions of dollars. The jury has also watched lengthy excerpts from an October videotaped deposition in which Mr. Trump vehemently denied raping Carroll, or deliberations likely to begin on Tuesday. And joining us on What Now to discuss this is a global affairs analyst, Calvin Dark. Good to have you join us.
Good to be here.
Once again, we're discussing a legal case involving former President Trump, and I think that both legal and investigation by the U.S. Congress, now total about 6 of them, highlight for us the extent of the legal troubles that have engulfed the former President Trump since he left office in January 2021.
Well, yeah, those legal challenges have been quite numerous, and I think it's important to recognize that when we think about the indictment that happened in Manhattan, New York, the ongoing investigation at the federal level in Washington about what happened on January the 6th, the insurrection, and then in Georgia, the election interference, which is a whole separate investigation, those are the most serious. However, this trial with Jean Carroll, it's civil. And that doesn't mean that her allegations aren't serious, or this isn't a serious matter. But we have to remember that in the worst case, it's not going to have that big of consequences for former President Trump, because since it's not criminal, the most that he would have to do is to pay money, and that won't be a problem for him. And the other thing that goes along with it is, for most people, particularly politicians, the shame and embarrassment factor would be a heavy consequence, but it's not going to be for Trump. Let's remember that with the Access Hollywood tape that came out where Trump was bragging about sexually assaulting women, that came out right before the 2016 election, and he won. We turned back to his term because those really didn't have a factor. So this case in particular is not going to have that big of a consequence, unfortunately, for Trump, no matter what the jury decides.
And when you look at these cases all together, it's quite interesting you mentioned the shame factor, because when you look at these cases all together, it does seem as though it is doing more to help his ambition rather than paint him as a liability. He has managed to stay on the news since he left office, and there's a likely chance that he gets sympathy support from all of this.
Oh, yes, definitely. And, one of the things that since 2016 that we've asked here in the United States, and I'm sure that people around the world have asked, is whenever Donald Trump does something or is accused of doing something, illegal, immoral, chaotic, the support doesn't go anywhere. In fact, sometimes it gets stronger. And I'll tell you why. Donald Trump is like a package. And what I mean by that is that everything about Donald Trump, things you like, may not like, what he wants to do, what he says, what he tweets, what he's done in his past, what he says he'll do in the future, it's all a part of a package. And the people that support him have already bought the package. And so none of these things, as horrible as they are a surprise. So the people who are supporting him knowing this is what comes along with the package. Now, I will say that for 2024, these incidents are probably not going to make him lose support that he already has. And they do gain sympathy among those that support him, and they'll be galvanized to support him. But what it won't do, it won't gain him new support. I doubt there's anybody who's on the fence about Trump that are going to say, wow, now I'll support him because he's got more legal cases. So I think that it will propel him to get the majority of votes for the Republicans, but he won't gain any new support till he win in a general election in November 2024.
What about the Republican Party? Which of this case could make or mar him in terms of the Republican Party? Which of the cases has a potential to cast a cloud over his ambitions to run again for the White House?
I think that the most serious will be what happens with the January 6th investigation at the federal level in Washington and the Georgia investigation. There's supposed to be an announcement if he or others are going to be indicted and charged. I think they said before the end of the summer. And I think because those are very serious criminal cases where, in the case of Georgia, there's a recording of what he was trying to do. I don't think that the case in Manhattan is going to really affect the Republican support of him, because most people think it's a witch hunt, think it was overcharged. But I think once we step out of the legal realm and we think about the political realm for the Republicans, what's going to happen is Republican leaders are going to have to decide, do we go after a candidate that is insanely popular within our party and probably not win, or do we support somebody who could actually win in a general election? And it looks to be that they are choosing the former, not the latter.
Mm. And when you look at the former President Trump, and you talk about electability, between 2020 and now, how electable is he?
Well, if you look on paper, and I'd say for anybody else of any other party of any other time, they would not have a political career. Indictments, recordings. But for Trump, in the United States, we call him Teflon Don. Nothing sticks to him. When we look at what's happened since 2020, he has been able to turn some of these scandals into more support. Let's remember that when he was indicted, he raised millions of dollars from ordinary Americans giving $20 and $25. So as egregious as some of the things he's accused of doing are, it doesn't seem to be hurting him with his strong base of support.
We'll see how things play out. Thank you so much for talking to us, as always. Global Affairs Analyst Calvin Dark.
Thank you.
Finally, on What Now? King Charles